Hey guys, this is Lauren. So sorry for the lack of videos. I have been insanely busy. No joke, there's just been so much going on in my life. I had a speech and debate tournament last week, or 2 weeks ago, and then I'm leaving on Tuesday for Washington to go to yet another speech and debate tournament. And then, yeah, so my life has just been crazy, but this, as you can tell from the title, is my quarterly wrap-up. I decided not to do like a monthly wrap-up, simply because I don't have the time to do that. So I'm going to be showing you all the books I read every 3 months. So this means that these videos are going to be kind of long, and it also means that you guys will actually get these videos. These are the books I read from January to March, and I'm going to be going in order that I've read them. So I would urge you to go pause this video, go downstairs, get a snack, get a drink, go to the bathroom. This is going to be a really long video. Now, the first book that I read this year was The Isle of Swords by Wayne Thompson Battston. Now, I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars, simply because while the premise was really interesting and the story itself was pretty good, the writing wasn't the best. So it wasn't an amazing book. This book is essentially about a pirate captain whose name is Captain Ross, and he wants to be out of the pirate business. Their job in this book is they go and they try to find this treasure that these old monks had hid, and it's a pretty interesting premise, and it was pretty good. The next book I read is non-fiction, and it is Conflict and Suspense by James Scott Bell. This book is about how to write conflict and suspense, hence the title. And I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. It was just really good. As you can see, I tabbed the whole thing. I mean, there's probably 50 or 60 tabs. I mean, every page probably has a tab on it. Really, really good advice. If you are a writer, I would highly recommend this. The next book I read for school, and yes, I am going to be including the books I read for school simply because I enjoy them so much that I think you guys should know about them. And it's The House of Mirth by Edith Wharton. And I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. Now, this is a book about Lily Bart in the late 1800s, and essentially it's a novel dictating a girl of high social status falling to a lower social status. And I thought that the themes and the thoughts behind here were really deep and were really good. I also really enjoyed the writing style. Alright, the next book I read, I believe this is still in January, is The Midnight City by J. Batten Mitchell. This is a end of the world book, and it's about this alien race called the Assembly who come and take over the world. And they send out this message, I guess it's like a radio link, called the Tone. And essentially it brainwashes all adults. And so the only people who are left are children. And so this book follows one such child who is a bounty hunter and his journey to survive. And I thought it was really good. I gave it 3 stars, mainly because of the writing style. It was a really interesting premise, but I didn't feel as much suspense as I wanted to, and part of that was the writing style wasn't as like powerful, I guess. The next book I'm sure you guys have all heard of, Cinder by Marissa Meyer. Now, if you don't know what this is about, this is a retelling of Cinderella, and Cinder, or Cinderella, is a cyborg. And this is a futuristic book. It's kind of sci-fi and fantasy-ish. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. It was just so good. I loved it. It was amazing. I thought that it captured the elements of Cinderella that are really important, that are like vital and core to the Cinderella story, and put them in this book and made it completely new and completely original. Alright, the next book I read is Crossed by Ali Condé. Now, some people hate this series, some people love this series. I am one of those people who actually really enjoyed this series. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It's a dystopian about the government essentially controls who you are going to marry, and the main character, Cassia, decides that she doesn't know that the guy she was matched with is actually the person she wants to be with. So typical dystopian story, and I'm looking forward to reading the last one, which came out a while ago. The next book I just love. there's no other words for it. I just love this book. It's The Ranger's Apprentice, Book 12, The Royal Ranger by John Flanagan. So the Ranger's Apprentice series follows a young boy named Will, and he is an orphan, and he gets chosen to be a ranger's apprentice. And so all of the books detail like all of his adventures with being a ranger. There's something for everyone. There's action, there's some romance in some of the later books. There's parts that made me laugh and parts that made me cry, especially in this book. My emotions were just a mess in this book. I was crying and laughing and crying while laughing, and oh, it was just so good. I gave this 5 stars. Yes, I love this series a lot. Okay, the next 3 books I read were books in a series, and it is the Chronicles of the Imaginarium Geographia, and they are Here There Be Dragons, The Search for the Red Dragon, and The Indigo King, all by James A. Owen. The basic premise is that there's a world that has like all of the fairy tale stuff in it, like Peter Pan and dragons. It's like a fairy tale world, and so there's something called the Imaginarium Geographia, and that is this book that has all of the map in this world, in this land, and so it's about the caretakers of the book. It kind of reminds me of a Tolkien-esque C.S. Lewis type thing, simply because of the writing style feels that way. If you like classic literature, or if you read a lot of classic literature, even some more of the modern classic literature, you will love these books. And I gave these books 4 out of 5 stars, all 3 of them. Now on to another dystopian, and this is Delirium by Lauren Oliver. If you don't know about Delirium, this is a book about a dystopian society where love is a disease, or seen as a disease, and they found a cure for it. And so this is all about the main character and how she kind of struggles with the idea that love isn't a curse but a blessing. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I think that it was really well written. There was one part, oh yes, this story, you will laugh. There was one part where I gasped aloud, really loudly, and I was sitting in New Life Church, which is the church I go to Sunday night, waiting for my brother to get done. Everyone in the room turned and looked at me with the point of utter and total concern. The shot came right at the end of the chapter, which is brilliantly placed. Anyway, it was really good, and I can't wait to read the next 2. The next book is the second book in a series. I gave this one 5 stars. It is Scarlet by Marissa Meyer, the second book in the Lunar Chronicles. Still follows the story of Cinder and Kai, but it also goes into the retelling of Little Red Riding Hood. And can I just say how much I love this book. I'm waiting for Crest to come out in paperback, and I don't know if I can wait that long because I need to know what happens. I won't go into the plot of this one, but I will tell you that again, Marissa Meyer went and she took a fairy tale that is really well known. She took the most identifiable aspects of it and twisted it into something new. The characters in this one and in Cinder are just, oh my gosh, so amazing. Like, I don't know how she did it. They're all so distinct. You just have to read them. Please. If you've not picked up these books, please go read them. The next book is another book for school, and I gave this one 4 stars, and it is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. First, this cover is just the most beautiful thing. It's like watercolor, and it's a face, and her eyes are a little creepy, but I tend to ignore that. And then it's like the skyline. Oh, it's just so cool. Next is yet another pirate book. I read a lot of pirate books these last 2 months. Actually only 2, so I don't know why I just said that. Anyway, it's Steel by Carrie Vaughn. This is a book about a girl whose name has currently slipped my mind because it is in first person and her name is hardly ever mentioned. This book is about a girl who is a fencer, and she lost her bout, which would have qualified her for like the national championship. And she's really bummed. Her and her family go on vacation. She's being a moody teenager, and she finds this sword fragment, and it transports her back in time to a pirate ship. And Miss Vaughn, she did a very good job at keeping it realistic. This isn't your romanticized version of pirates. It's more gruesome than that, and it's more realistic and more intense. And I really like this book. I give it 4 stars, but there's just a lot of pirates, obviously, a lot of sword fighting, and a lot of her, the main character, finding out who she is. The front cover says, a swashbuckling tale of magic, romance, and pirates. The romance doesn't come until like the last like 3 or 4 chapters, but I feel like the romance is more real here because it's like crushes and you don't really say that you really like someone, but then you do, and then you tell them, and then they leave. This is the most realistic pirate romantic book I have ever read in my life. Next book is Monument 14 by Emmy Laybourne. This is a book about a group of teenagers who are stranded in a supermarket. It's like a Walmart, but not quite. It's not called a Walmart, but it's like a Walmart. It's a Walmart. Essentially what happens is they're on their way to school and they're in this bus and they're driving along, and all of a sudden this hail starts and their driver flips out. He's not a very good bus driver, but the hail isn't just normal hail, it's huge and people die, and eventually they manage to get to the supermarket, but they get locked in there because these automatic riot gates close down. So it's just a group of kids, 2 busfuls of kids, who are stranded in a supermarket during superstorms. And this takes place in Colorado. It's like a whole bunch of natural disasters that are happening. There's a giant tsunami in along the East Coast, and there's volcanic eruptions in Hawaii, hailstorms in Colorado, and then an earthquake. And then the nuclear facility in Colorado essentially has a meltdown, and there's all these chemicals, people different ways depending on your blood type. It's a really intense book. I probably will read the next 3 simply because I want to know what happens to everyone. But I only gave this 3 stars. The writing was beautiful, fantastic, phenomenal, made me see everything, and that was part of the problem. It was super graphic, and there were some sexual scenes in there that I was just really uncomfortable that I had to skip. The next book makes me so happy. It is Wild Magic by Tamora Pierce. I told you, oh my gosh, I love Tamora Pierce so stinking much. This book is about a girl named Diane.